It is a part of the brain which connects, which has midbrain, pons and medulla, which connect brain with the spinal cord. Okay, so with this introduction, we'll see. So it includes three parts. The brainstem includes three parts. In this image, you can see. 1 minute. So here you can see it has midbrain, pons, and medulla. So I will draw this one. So you can see, so this much part, it is the midbrain, and below that, up to here, it is pons, and below the level of pons, so this much it is the medulla oblongata or medulla. Okay, so these are the three parts. From below upwards, medulla, pons, and midbrain. Is it clear? So now these form central axis connecting the forebrain to the spinal cord. Okay, so it connect forebrain to the spinal cord. We saw forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, isn't it? The three parts of the brain: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So midbrain is only this much midbrain part, whereas this part midbrain, whereas hindbrain include three: pons, medulla, and behind them there is cerebellum. These three considered as the hindbrain. Now, above this level there is cerebral hemisphere. Now, these cerebral hemisphere are connected, are known as the forebrain. They are connected to the spinal cord. So this is the spinal cord here now. They are connected to the spinal cord. Cerebral hemispheres are connected to the spinal cord by means of the brain stem. Okay, so it connects. It is the center. It forms the central axis connecting forebrain to the spinal cord. Okay, so now medulla, it is a continuation of the upper part of spinal cord only. So we'll see later. We can observe almost structures are same in the lower part of medulla because it is a slight continuation. It is a just continuation of the spinal cord to the upward. Okay, so it is a continuation of the upper part of the spinal cord or cervical part of the spinal cord. Pons, which means bridge. The meaning of the pons is bridge. Okay, now it lies between medulla and midbrain. Okay, so the pons lies between the medulla below and midbrain above. Now it is called as bridge because you can see this image here. Can you see this? So this is the pons, clear? And it lies over a cavity below. This cavity is known as the fourth ventricle, which lie between the pons and cerebellum. Now, pons lies like a bridge over this cavity, like a river or canal. Over that there is a bridge-like structure. So that is why the name is pons. The meaning of pons is bridge. Then the pons, which means bridge, lies between medulla and midbrain. The third one, it is the midbrain. The midbrain continues above with the parts of the forebrain, that is diencephalon and cerebral hemisphere. Clear? So the midbrain continues above with the parts of the forebrain, which include diencephalon. Diencephalon, they are the parts which include the thalamus, hypothalamus, subthalamus, metathalamus. So those. And cerebral hemisphere, right and left cerebral hemisphere. So that much is related to three parts. We'll see them in detail later. The medulla, that is upper part, and pons are separated from cerebellum by the cavity of fourth ventricle. That we saw a short while ago. So I'll show again. So now this is the upper part of the medulla here and the entire pons. So this much area are separated from cerebellum. So you can see here. So this is cerebellum. The pons and upper part of the medulla are separated from cerebellum by a cavity here. The cavity is known as, so this cavity, the cavity is known as the fourth ventricle. So medulla and pons are separated from cerebellum by the cavity of the fourth ventricle. The ventricle continues above. You can see here the ventricle, the fourth ventricle, continues above with the cavity of the midbrain. It continues with the cavity of the midbrain. The cavity of midbrain is known as cerebral aqueduct. Is it clear? So you can see here. So this one, cerebral aqueduct. So this part is midbrain. The part which I am marking now, it is the midbrain. In the midbrain, there is a cavity, small canal, which is known as the cerebral aqueduct. Now, fourth ventricle, which we saw earlier, which lie between pons and upper part of medulla and in front and cerebellum behind. This fourth ventricle continues above with the cerebral aqueduct. Through the cerebral aqueduct, it opens into a large cavity known as the third ventricle. Clear? Below, it continues with the central canal of the lower part of medulla and spinal cord. Is it clear? So you can see here, I said earlier, so this much part, it is the upper part of medulla. Clear? Now medulla has lower part also, which continues with the spinal cord. Now the cavity of fourth ventricle is present only in the upper part. You can see here the cavity present only in relation to pons. I am marking the margin of the cavity. Up to here the cavity is there. Now below this level you can see there is a small canal extending. Clear? Now above we saw it continues with the cerebral aqueduct, through that it open into the third ventricle. Whereas below it continues with the central canal of the lower medulla and that of the spinal cord. So that is the extension of the fourth ventricle. Anyhow, regarding detailed study of the fourth ventricle we will be doing later. Okay, so what are the boundaries, what are the margins, what are the communications, etc. That we'll see later, once we finish with the organs of the nervous system. Is that clear? So earlier also I said the medulla, pons and cerebellum, these three together, they are known as the hindbrain. The part what you are observing here, this much part. This much part together known as the hindbrain. Clear? So that much is related to the three parts of the brainstem. Now the parts of the brainstem are connected to the cerebellum. Okay, so you can see here, so this is midbrain, this part is midbrain, and below the midbrain we have pons, and below the pons there is medulla. Now all these three parts, and earlier we saw in the image, behind them there lies the cerebellum. Now all these three parts are separate or connected to the cerebellum by means of some communication. There is a communicating trunk which connect the three parts of the brainstem with the cerebellum. They are known as peduncles. They are known as the peduncles. There are three peduncles as per their name or as per their location. There are three peduncles. The first one is superior cerebellar peduncle, middle cerebellar peduncle, and inferior cerebellar peduncle. The superior cerebellar peduncle, you can see here. So this is the superior cerebellar peduncle. Where it is connected? It is connected to the midbrain. Clear? So superior cerebellar peduncle is connected to the midbrain, or it connects midbrain to the cerebellum. Whereas middle cerebellar peduncle, it connects pons to the cerebellum. Whereas the inferior cerebellar peduncle, you know this is medulla oblongata, so it connects medulla oblongata to the cerebellum. So these are the three peduncles which connect cerebellum with the brainstem. So superior connects the uppermost part of the brainstem, that is midbrain, with the cerebellum. The middle connects pons with the cerebellum, whereas inferior connects medulla oblongata with the cerebellum. Now, whatever fibers which pass between, or whatever fibers which enter the cerebellum or leave the cerebellum, they pass through these three peduncles only. Other than that, there is no other communication to the cerebellum. Whatever neuron which is needed to enter the cerebellum, it should pass through these three peduncles. Is it clear? Am I clear to you till now?
Yes, sir.
So next we'll see. Now the brainstem is quite an important part of the brain or central nervous system, because 10 out of 12 pairs of cranial nerve are attached to it. Is it clear? So you know there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Among 12 pairs, the 10, except first and second, the remaining 10 are connected or attached to the brainstem. So their attachment is as follows. First one, midbrain. From the midbrain, the two nerves attached to the midbrain, two nerves are attached. You can see here. So this one is oculomotor neuron on either side of median plane, immediately on either side of median plane, oculomotor neuron, and trochlear nerve, which is lateral most. Trochlear nerve actually arises from behind the brainstem or midbrain, and it passes, it curves around the margin of the midbrain and comes forward. Okay, only cranial nerve which arises from posterior aspect of the brainstem is trochlear nerve. This you should remember. In Viva, this can be asked, which is the nerve which take origin from the posterior surface of the brainstem or midbrain. Okay, so that is trochlear nerve. So there are two nerves which take origin or which are attached to the midbrain. They are oculomotor, which is third cranial nerve, and trochlear, which is fourth cranial nerve. Now from pons, only one nerve attached. Okay, so to the two pons, only one nerve is attached, which is largest, the trigeminal nerve. The fifth cranial nerve, trigeminal nerve, is attached on the lateral aspect of the pons. Now, there are three nerves attached to the junction between the pons and medulla. The junction is known as the pontomedullary junction. The junction is known as pontomedullary junction, which means the junction between the pons and medulla, pontomedullary. So this area, line, I'll mark it with line. So this area is known as pontomedullary junction. And from that area, three nerve arises. They are abducent, this one. Then there arises the facial nerve, and there will be vestibulocochlear nerve. Clear? So these are the nerve which take origin from the pontomedullary junction. So once again, I'll repeat. The nerves are abducent, facial, vestibulocochlear. Okay, so these are the three nerves which take origin. The abducent is 6th, facial is 7th, and vestibulocochlear is 8th cranial nerve. Now, from medulla, the remaining four origin, they are glossopharyngeal. You can see. So this is the glossopharyngeal nerve. This is glossopharyngeal nerve. Again, in detail, we'll see later. From when we observe, when we study individual part, we'll be seeing all these. From which part it take origin. Okay, so glossopharyngeal, 9th cranial nerve. Then we can see this is vagus nerve. Clear? Vagus nerve. Then accessory nerve. Sorry. So vagus nerve, accessory nerve, and hypoglossal nerve. Clear? So, glossopharyngeal, on this side I'll mark, glossopharyngeal, vagus, accessory, and hypoglossal nerve. So, these are the nerve which take origin from the medulla oblongata. So, easy to remember, midbrain 2, pons 1, pontomedullary 3, and medulla oblongata 4. 2, 1, 3, 4. Clear? So, 1, 2, 3, 4 in a different way. Okay, so 2, 1, 3, 4. Okay, so that much is related to, and in the same order. First, midbrain, oculomotor trochlear, pons trigeminal, pontomedullary junction, abducent, facial, vestibulocochlear, and medulla oblongata, glossopharyngeal, vagus, accessory, and hypoglossal. So that much is related to the nerve and their relation or connection with the brainstem. Done. The introductory part.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So next we'll study regarding we'll start with the individual part coming to medulla oblongata. We'll move in the same order. We finished with the spinal cord. Now after finishing the spinal cord, we'll be studying the medulla because almost structures are almost same. Okay, gradually it is getting transformed from its lower level to the upper level. You can see here from lower level to upper level, it is gradually transforming. Now, after finishing medulla oblongata, we will be seeing pons because the structure almost remains same here in the pons and upper part of medulla. Okay, so with slight difference. Then after finishing the pons, we will be seeing the midbrain. Clear? So first we will see medulla oblongata. So medulla is the caudal and ventral part of the hindbrain, which is known as the rhombencephalon. Is it clear? So it is the caudal. Caudal means lower, ventral means anterior part of the hindbrain. Okay, so hindbrain we saw there are three parts in the hindbrain. They are, you can see here in this, this much forms hindbrain. Clear? What are the structures included? Pons, medulla, and cerebellum. So these three include, they are together known as the hindbrain. Now the lowermost part is medulla oblongata and it is in front anteriorly. So it is the caudal and anterior part of the hindbrain. Now it continues with the pons above and spinal cord below. You can see here above it continues with the pons, whereas below it continues with the spinal cord. Now we'll see the extension. The lower border of the pons to, so it extends between lower border of the pons to a transverse plane passing along upper border of the posterior arch. Posterior arch of the first cervical vertebra, posterior arch of the first cervical vertebra, which corresponds to the emergence of the first cervical nerve. So that is the extension. So you know first cervical vertebra, which is known as, what is the name of first cervical vertebra? Atlas.
Atlas.
Now Atlas has two arches, anterior arch and posterior arch. If I make the diagram, so now this is the first cervical vertebra. Clear? Now it has two arches, anterior arch and posterior arch. There are two arches, anterior arch and posterior arch. The medulla oblongata extends up to the upper border of the posterior arch. It extends up to the upper border of posterior arch. And from this level, the first cervical nerve emerges out. Suppose from here, the first cervical nerve emerges out. Is it clear? So that is the extension. Now coming to its shape. So it is piriform in shape. Clear? So it is like pear, piriform in shape. Have you seen the pear? Now it is available in the market. It is the season of pear now. Clear? So it appears like a pear. So piriform in shape. Its dimension, the length of the medulla oblongata, this length is 3 centimeter. Width is 2 centimeter from at its widest part. Okay, so at its widest part it is 2 centimeter, and thickness, anterior posterior thickness is 1.25 centimeter. So these are the dimensions. So once again I'll repeat, dimensions of the medulla. Its height is 3 centimeter, width is 2 centimeter at widest part, and thickness is 1.25 centimeter. Clear? So that much is related to the dimension, and the shape we saw, it is piriform in shape. It extends between the lower margin of the pons to the upper border of the posterior arch of first cervical vertebra, which corresponds to the emergence of first cervical nerve. Okay, so now we know now the position, the location, extent and shape, dimension, etc. Now we'll see what are the structures which are related to the medulla. So anteriorly, it is related to upper surface of basilar part of occipital bone. You can see here, this is occipital bone here. So this is occipital bone, and this also a part of occipital bone. Clear? And in the occipital bone there is a foramen which is known as foramina magna, or is it clear? So a large foramen known as the foramina magna, through which the brain medulla oblongata comes out and continues as the spinal cord. Clear? So now in this image you can see here, so this is the medulla oblongata. Clear? Anteriorly, it is related to basilar part of the occipital bone. So this part is known as basilar part of occipital bone on its anterior surface. Okay, so anteriorly it is related to upper surface of basilar part of occipital bone. Clear? And it is also related to upper part of the odontoid process. It is related to upper part of odontoid process of axis. You can see here, just observe here. So this is first cervical vertebra, and this one is second cervical, and this you can see dens of the second cervical vertebra, odontoid process or dens. So you can see here the lower part of the medulla is related to dens. So this is very, very important relation of the medulla oblongata. Hanging, in judicial hanging, the knot is put in such a way that when the person is hanged, the odontoid process will get broken, and this broken piece of odontoid process will press the medulla oblongata, and medulla oblongata has respiratory center. It causes inhibition of respiratory center and person dies. Clear? So that is the importance of the medulla oblongata, or importance of relation of the medulla oblongata with the dens odontoid process. Okay, so once again I'll repeat, anterior surface, it is related to the superior surface of the basilar part of occipital bone. Lower part, it is related to odontoid process of axis or dens of the axis, and the medulla is separated from these two by meninges. You can see here, so there is meninges, the layers of the meninges which separate these two from the medulla oblongata, and there is a ligament known as the occipito-axial ligament. A ligament you can see here, I will mark with a different color. So there is a white band you can see here. So this is the ligament which connect occipital bone with the axis, occipito-axial ligament. So that much is related to the anterior relations. Now coming to the posterior relation. Posteriorly, notch between cerebellar hemisphere. So it is related to notch between the cerebellar hemisphere. So between the two cerebellar hemisphere, there is a depressed area which is known as notch of the cerebellar hemisphere. Now separated from the cerebellum by the cavity of the fourth ventricle. You can see here. So this is the cavity of fourth ventricle. So here it is the cavity of fourth ventricle. So medulla is in front. Behind the medulla there is cavity of fourth ventricle. Clear? The fourth ventricle separates the notch of the cerebellar hemisphere, notch between the cerebellar hemisphere from the medulla oblongata. So that much is related to the anterior and posterior relations of the medulla oblongata. Am I clear to you? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So next we'll see the cavity of medulla. So the lower part of the medulla contain the continuation of the central canal. Okay, so the lower part of medulla contain continuation of the central canal of spinal cord. In the spinal cord, earlier we studied that, I'll make the diagram. In the center, there is a gray commissure. In the gray commissure, there is a canal which is known as central canal. Clear? The same canal continues here in the lower part of medulla. Deep to this line, there lies the central canal. Clear? If I show the diagram here, this is the section of the medulla oblongata at lower level. If you cut the medulla oblongata at here, this part appears like this, and you can see the structure is almost like that of the spinal cord, isn't it? It has anterior gray horn, posterior gray horn, and gray commissure, funiculus, anterior funiculus, lateral funiculus, posterior funiculus. Structure is almost same with the tracts and gray matter. Clear? And in the center there is a canal also. Clear? There is a canal in the center, whereas in the upper part it differs. So this is the section at upper part, and you don't find any such cavity here. The cavity moves behind. The cavity is here. This is the cavity. Clear? So once again I'll tell, cavity of medulla. The lower part of the medulla contain the continuation of the central canal of spinal cord. In the upper part of medulla, the canal opens into cavity of fourth ventricle. You can see here, I said deep to this line, posterior median sulcus, there lies the cavity. Now this cavity in the upper part opens into this large cavity. This canal opens into a large cavity known as cavity of fourth ventricle. Or you can see here, so this is the cavity here. As it moves upward behind the upper part of medulla, it opens into the large cavity known as the fourth ventricle. Clear? So that much is related to cavity of medulla. Now based on this cavity, medulla is divided into two parts. Okay, based on the presence of this cavity, or based on the presence of or arrangement of the cavity of medulla, in the lower part it is a very tube-like continuation of the central canal, whereas in the upper part it has a cavity of fourth ventricle. Now, in relation to this, the medulla is divided into two parts. The lower part where cavity is closed. Lower part where cavity is closed. Closed means you can see here the cavity is surrounded by the gray matter or surrounded by the medulla oblongata from all around. So that part is known as the closed part. The lower part of the medulla is known as closed part, whereas in the upper part, the cavity is covered by the medulla only in front. Behind, it is covered by the cerebellum. So that is why this part of the medulla is known as the open part. So in this image also you can see. So this part where cavity is closed is known as the closed part of the medulla, whereas this part where cavity is open, which is covered only on one side in front, is known as the open part of the medulla. Clear? So there are two parts: lower closed part containing central canal, upper open part containing lower part of the fourth ventricle. So that much is related to cavity of the medulla. So now we'll see the external features of the medulla oblongata. So medulla oblongata, it has two surfaces. You can see here, so it has two surfaces: anterior surface and posterior surface. So it has two surfaces. The surface here you are observing, so this is the anterior surface. Clear? So it has two surfaces: anterior surface, which is otherwise known as the ventral surface. Anterior surface is also known as ventral surface, whereas posterior surface, which is also known as the dorsal surface. Okay, so these are the two surfaces. So, and the surfaces show following fissures and sulci, which divide the cerebellum into parts. Like in the spinal cord also we saw there are sulci and fissures. In the same way, the similar sulci and fissures are seen here. That is why I am going in this order, because once you know the spinal cord, you know what are the sulci and fissure. The same sulci and fissure will continue here. Okay. So now first one we'll see anterior median fissure. In the spinal cord also we saw same name, anterior median fissure. So the anterior median fissure, it is present in the entire length of medulla oblongata. You can see here, I'll mark it. So this is the anterior median fissure. It is present in the entire length of the medulla. It continues below with the anterior median fissure of the spinal cord. That I already explained you. Okay, so below the anterior median fissure continues with that of the spinal cord. Clear? In the lower part, it is interrupted by decussating fibers of the pyramidal tract. If I show, you can see here. So this is the anterior median fissure. In the lower part, you can see there are interruption. Now this interruption is because of these fibers. They are decussating from right to left, they are moving, from left to right they are moving. So now this decussation produces a ridge like elevation in the median plane, which is known as the decussation of the pyramidal tract. Okay, so once again I'll repeat: anterior median fissure, it is present in the entire length of the spinal cord, entire length of the medulla oblongata, continues below with the anterior median fissure of the spinal cord. In the lower part, it is interrupted by decussating fibers of pyramidal tract. So that much is related to anterior median fissure. The next one, it is the posterior median sulci. The posterior median sulcus. The posterior median sulcus is a narrow groove present only in the lower part. Okay, so you can see this is the posterior median sulcus. It is present only in the lower part because upper part it is open. These move laterally like this. So in the upper part it is open, medulla oblongata is open. You don't find that sulcus in the posterior surface. Clear? So posterior median fissure or sulci. It is narrow groove present only in the lower part. It continues with the posterior median sulcus of the spinal cord again. So below it continues with the posterior median sulcus of the. It ends above where central canal opens into cavity of fourth ventricle. That we saw. So this is cavity of fourth ventricle. This wall, what I am marking, it is the cavity of fourth ventricle. Now the central canal reaches up to here and ends there in the lower margin of the or lower end of the cavity of the fourth ventricle, or at the site where central canal opens into cavity of fourth ventricle. So that much is related to posterior median sulci. The anterior median fissure and posterior median sulcus divide the medulla into two halves. If I draw a line between these two, now the the medulla is now divided into two halves. Each half is further divided by anterolateral and posterolateral sulcus. You can see here, so this is the anterolateral sulcus. Similarly, here it is a very faint sulcus. Here lies the posterior median, posterolateral sulcus. So, mainly by the anterior median fissure and posterior median sulcus, it is divided into two parts, right and left. Each half is now further divided by two more sulci. They are anterior lateral and posterior lateral sulcus. Now each half has three parts now. Anterior part, lateral part, and posterior part. So these are the parts of the medulla in its lower part. Clear? Now regions of medulla. Anterior region. So we saw, so same thing. Three region: anterior region, lateral region, and posterior region. So first we'll see anterior region. It lies between the anterior median fissure and anterior lateral sulcus. Clear? So you can see here this part. So we saw anterior median fissure, and you can see, so this is the anterior lateral sulcus. So the area between anterior median fissure and anterolateral sulcus is known as the anterior region. The upper part of the anterior region has a elongated elevation on the surface. Clear? You can see here there is a elongated elevation in the upper part of this anterior region. So there is a elongated elevation in the anterior region, that is on either side of the central sulcus. You can see one. Clear? Now this is known as pyramid. Clear? So this is known as the pyramid. You can see here. So this part, it is known as the pyramid. Now the pyramid contain, or deep to it contain, corticospinal tract. So corticospinal tract or pyramidal tract lie deep to it. We saw earlier, we saw what is pyramidal tract. Can anyone say what is pyramidal tract? Or corticospinal tract? Yes, anyone?
Sorry,
Yes.
it originates from cerebral cortex and in
spinal cord. Okay, so they are called pyramidal tracts because they take origin from the pyramidal cell of the cerebral cortex. Okay, now this pyramidal tract produces a surface elevation in the anterior region of the medulla. The surface elevation thus known as pyramid. Clear? The elevation is known as pyramid because it is produced by the pyramidal tract. Now between the upper end of the pyramid and lower border of pons, abducent nerve arises. Okay, so you can see here You can see here, this is pons, and here you can see this is the pyramid. In the anteromedian fissure, on either side of anteromedian fissure, you have the pyramid, elongated elevation. Now between the pons and pyramid, what arises? Abducent nerve. The abducent nerve arises between the pons and pyramid. Clear? So once again I'll repeat. Between the anterior region lies between the anteromedian fissure and anterolateral sulcus. In the upper part, it forms elongated elevation on the surface known as the pyramid. The corticospinal tract underlies it. Between upper end of the pyramid and lower border of the pons, abducent nerve emerges. Below anterior region becomes continuous with that of the anterior funiculus of the spinal cord. We saw in the spinal cord, we saw there are three funiculus: anterior, lateral, and posterior funiculus. The anterior region of the medulla continues with the anterior funiculus. Or in this diagram, if I want to show, so this much is anterior region, which is structurally same as that of the anterior funiculus of the spinal cord, isn't it? So same thing is explained. So that much is related to anterior region. So next one is lateral region. The lateral region lies between the anterolateral sulcus and the posterolateral sulcus. Okay, so you can see here in this image, you can see this is anterolateral sulcus here, and this is posterolateral sulcus. Now the area between these two is known as the, so this much area, it is the lateral region. Upper part present oval swelling on the outer surface. Upper part presents a oval swelling known as the olive. You can see here the olive-like swelling here known as the olive, which lies immediately lateral to the pyramid. Okay, so immediately it lies lateral to the pyramid. So once again I'll repeat, the upper part presents a oval swelling known as olive, which lies lateral to the pyramid. The olive corresponds to position of inferior olivary nucleus. You can see here, there is a nucleus here, which is known as the inferior olivary nucleus. So the inferior olivary nucleus produces a surface elevation in the upper part of medulla, which is known as olive. Clear? So upper part of the lateral region contain a oval swelling. It has a oval swelling known as the olive, which lies lateral to the pyramid, which corresponds to the position of inferior olivary nucleus, which is present within the medulla. Now the hypoglossal nerve, it arises from sulcus between olive and pyramid. You can see here, between olive and pyramid, there is a sulcus. Through that sulcus, the nerve comes out. The accessory nerve comes out. You can see here. So this is accessory nerve. So where it comes out? Between the pyramid and olive. In between the pyramid and olive, the accessory nerve comes out. From posterolateral sulcus, that is behind the olive, few nerve arises. From posterolateral sulcus, few nerve arises. They are, you can see here, earlier we saw between olive, so this is olive here, olive, and here you can see this is pyramid. Now between olive and pyramid, hypoglossal we saw, hypoglossal. Now behind olive, so this is, suppose this is olive, behind olive there is a sulcus, which is known as the posterolateral sulcus. Now from this posterolateral sulcus, following nerve arises. They are glossopharyngeal, vagus, and accessory. So these are the three nerve arises behind the, or behind the olive, that is from the posterolateral sulcus. Now, between olive and lower border of pons, you can see here. So this is olive and lower border of pons. Between these two, the nerve which arises is the facial nerve. Clear? Facial nerve, and lateral to that lies the vestibulocochlear nerve. So lateral to facial lies the vestibulocochlear. Clear? So that much is related to the lateral region. Clear? Am I clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Anterior region and lateral region?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next we'll see the posterior region. It is described in two parts. The posterior region is described in two parts, the lower part and upper part. The lower part lies between posterolateral sulcus and posteromedian sulcus. Okay, so posterolateral sulcus and posteromedian sulcus. If you can see here, this is posterolateral and this is posteromedian. Now the region between these two is the posterior region. It is upward continuation of the posterior funiculus of the spinal cord, where we studied fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. The posterior funiculus having fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. The same continuation, the continuation of the same thing will be seen in the posterior region of the medulla. It contains same thing. It contains same fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, separated by posterior intermediate sulci. You can see here, this is fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, and between them there lies the intermediate sulci, posterior intermediate sulci. Near the upper end of the medulla, or near the upper end of lower part, these two fasciculi diverge laterally. They move laterally to end into their nuclei, known as the gracili nucleus and cuneate nucleus. You can see here. So this is the posterior median sulcus. Now this is the posterior intermediate sulcus, and here medial one is fasciculus gracilis. It move upward. As reaching upward, it is moving laterally. It is diverging laterally. Similarly, lateral to gracilis lies the cuneatus. It moves vertically up to its upper part. When it reaches upper part, it moves laterally. Clear? So the same thing is explained. Near the upper end of lower part, these two fasciculi diverge laterally. They turn laterally to end into their nuclei. Now these swelling, there are two swelling. One medial, another one is lateral. This swelling is due to the nuclei underlying. You can see here. So this is the nuclei, underlying nuclei, fasciculus gracili nucleus and cuneate nucleus. The medial one is gracili nucleus and lateral one is cuneate nucleus. Clear? Oh, sorry, this one, not this. This is gracili nucleus, and this one, smaller one, is the cuneate nucleus. So these are the two nuclei, and the fibers end there. Or the tracts, the fibers which are present in the fasciculus gracilis end in the gracili nucleus, and fibers which are present in the cuneate fasciculus end in the cuneate nucleus. The nuclei produces surface elevation known as the gracile tubercle and cuneate tubercle. So you can see here, the medial elevation is known as the gracile tubercle. It is known as the gracile tubercle, whereas lateral elevation is known as the cuneate tubercle. Clear? So that much is related to the posterior region of lower part. Now, sometimes there may be a third elevation is seen. Sometimes between rootlets of the accessory nerve and cuneate tubercle. Okay, so you can see here. So this is accessory, and posterior, we'll see. Yeah. This is cuneate tubercle, and accessory nerve comes here out. So this is the region where accessory nerve comes out. Sometimes between the cuneate nucleus and accessory nerve rootlet, elevation may be seen here. Now this elevation is known as tuber cinereum. It is known as the tuberculum cinereum. It is known as tuberculum cinereum. The elevation is due to underlying spinal tract of the trigeminal nerve. You can see here the third nucleus here. So this is the spinal tract of the trigeminal. Okay, spinal tract and nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. Okay, so this produces a third elevation, which is known as the tuberculum cinereum. Clear. So that much is related to lower part. Now, lastly, the upper part. The medulla in this region opens posteriorly into fourth ventricle. The upper part, in the lower part we saw, in the central there is a central canal. Here in the upper part, it is different. There is no central canal. The cavity is behind the medulla. Okay, so the cavity posteriorly, the fourth ventricle, posteriorly it opens into the fourth ventricle. Thus, posterior region diverges laterally. That we saw here in this image. The posterior region, earlier it was like this. This is right, this is left. Now it is diverged laterally, it moved laterally. In the same posterior region, it moved laterally. Okay, so it is diverging laterally. Clear? So thus posterior region diverges laterally. It is connected with the cerebellum by inferior cerebellar peduncle. You can see here, this part is connected to the cerebellum by inferior cerebellar peduncle. The peduncle lies on each side between the lower part of fourth ventricle. You can see this triangular area. Actually, it is diamond. If you add the pons, then it is diamond-shaped area, diamond-shaped cavity. So, on either side of the fourth ventricle, there lies inferior cerebellar peduncle. Earlier we saw the medulla oblongata is connected to the cerebellum via inferior cerebellar peduncle. The same inferior cerebellar peduncle. Clear?